What's up, y'all? It's the kid FortWorthFabian, BigBossFabo. I'm back with a reaction video for the channel, man. I'm actually doing a reaction to Escaping from the House of Horrors, the disturbing case of the Turpin family. So this is a Stranger Stories reaction, man. Off the Stranger Stories channel. Actually came across this channel while doing a few reactions to Explore With Us, man. The Ewu channel, man. You guys are familiar with that content creator. That channel do a lot of reactions to that channel. Just dropped one more recently, did actually two more recently, so go check them out on my recent uploads. A lot of criminology, crime documentaries, you know what I'm saying? So Stranger Stories seems to kind of mess in that same realm or dabble in that same type of form of content. Definitely been doing more of these type of reactions, trying to definitely open up the space with this type of content. Criminology, mystery, things of that nature, man. Crime series, crime docs. So if you have specific recommendations, definitely put those in the comment section down below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, man. Support the playlist. This is a reaction channel, man. Different forms of reaction content. So just be, a fan supporter. Check out the playlist page, which is basically my full library of content. So without further ado, let's get into Escaping from the House of Horrors. So this is a tidbit, man. A JCS-inspired crime documentary will uncover the terrifying case of the Turpin family. In 2018, the Turpin children, after a very long period of time, escaped their own home. We'll leave it at that and just let the doc speak for the rest, man. Be sure to like the video.
I just ran away from home.
Okay.
I live in a family of 15.
Okay.
My two little sisters right now are chained up.
They're chained up?
Yes.
Where are they chained up at?
On their bed.
They say that the most frightening monster of all is a human because they are more real and depraved than anything that can be found on a screen or the pages of a book. In today's video, we're going to see what monsters truly look like and how they can be as close as the house next door. David Allen Turpin and Louise Ann Robinette were high school sweethearts, in spite of David being 8 years older. When Louise was 16 and 20,
y'all high school sweethearts, but he 8 years older. Ain't like the spectrum range of grades in high school like a 4-year differential. So how's homie 8 years older? That don't make no sense. His grades basically 9th through 12th. Typically you're around the 15, 16 type of age. Freshman year, you graduate 18, of course. Your senior year, you're 18. You know what I'm saying? How was there an 8-year difference? I'm lost.
Before, the couple eloped to Perrysburg, Virginia. They returned home when Louise's parents filed a police complaint, but her father later allowed them to marry. Louise may have had darker reasons for wanting to marry. She may have seen it as an escape. She, her sister, and a cousin were routinely allowed to be abused by their maternal grandfather in exchange for money. Still, one has to give David a side-eye. Although still attending high school, he was well into adulthood, and it's doubtful that his relationship with a girl 8 years younger was entirely...
That's it right there, right? Prior trauma within childhood. Being abused by your grandfather. That's definitely a recipe for future harm, future abuse. Which obviously we know that she's done to her own children, right? They kind of moving quickly through this story, man. Slow down, slow down.
Philanthropic. Supposedly, the couple was Pentecostal, even though Louise wore pants. They engaged in swinging, and Louise was involved in witchcraft. In short, they were Pentecostal in the same way someone who goes to the grocery store is a radish. In 1988, their first child, Jennifer, was born. 12 more children would follow. 10 girls and 3 boys.
Children, 10 girls and 3 boys. Dang. That's a lot of kids, bro.
The youngest being born in 2015. Jennifer's infancy was no different than that of other suburbanite children. Her father was an electrical engineer with a well-paying job, and her mother was a homemaker. They lived in a new house in a nice neighborhood, almost a poster family for the American dream.
Minute rice cups are full
That's
of
what they
light,
always
fluffy,
say, man. The
delicious
poster
rice.
family this.
Ready in 60 seconds.
The American dream that. Come on, y'all.
Are you a low-income
Let's keep it
American on food
$1.50.
stamps or Medicaid?
Be sure to like
If
the video,
so,
man.
you
Like,
are
comment,
now
subscribe, hit
eligible.
notification bell.
That dream quickly transformed into a nightmare.
Thing one and thing a billion. Damn.
Over time,
97.
Louise stopped cleaning the house, and it was soon overrun by mold and overflowing trash. Her mood became volatile, and Jennifer never knew if asking a question would result in a loving and patient answer, or if she would be called stupid and yanked across the room by her hair. Jennifer was the only child to attend any school, although she was only allowed to do so until the 3rd grade. She described how she was forced to go unwashed in filthy clothes. The smell was so bad that other children refused to play with her, so she remained fairly isolated and depressed. By 1999, the family had moved to Fort Worth, Texas, and several more children had been born.
Fort Worth, Texas, man. Fort Worth. Wow, what are the odds, huh? Shout out to the Fort Worth family, man. Shout out to Fort Worth, Texas. Shout out to everybody out in Fort Worth.
Abuse had steadily escalated from neglect to physical, and they seemed to take a perverse delight in finding reasons to harm the children.
Weird.
Coloring outside the lines would merit having their hair pulled or being thrown across the room. One child made the mistake of going into her parents' bedroom and was pushed down the stairs. After a move to Rio Vista, Texas, things deteriorated even further when David and Louise dumped all but 2 of the youngest children in an isolated trailer on their property. The children were never allowed to leave without their parents, and David and Louise only brought groceries once every week or two, never bringing enough food to feed that many children for that period of time.
For what, though?
They were only allowed to eat 1 meal a day.
I think this is like a low-key hatred for, you know, having all these kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's too many kids to deal with, so you just, something snaps and you just start doing all types of goofiness with the kids, clown world stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no real clarity in understanding it. Why all of a sudden you start doing this, locking your kids up, malnourishing them. It's just, I don't know, something had to snap. You know, she looked crazy already. Buddy looked goofy. Look at his body too, you know what I'm saying? You know, he kind of just lounges around, got real lackadaisical, real lazy. Felt that he was tough, you know, felt he could boss around and kind of exude some type of authority, man. But after having this many kids, something got to snap. Baby girl probably just, you know, got a couple cords loose, you feel me?
Usually consisting of peanut butter or a bologna sandwich or a frozen burrito. The parents would eat takeout, junk food, or larger meals in front of the kids, and would often leave things like pumpkin and apple pies, taunting the children and then punishing them if they stole food. Jordan Turpin says that she was often reduced to eating ketchup, mustard, or ice, and she and the rest of her siblings were constantly hungry. 2010, Jennifer, who was suffering from depression and fearing for her siblings, made an escape. She hitchhiked into town and desperately tried to find a place to live and a job. Unfortunately, her lack of education made filling out paperwork virtually impossible. Overwhelmed and worried about what would happen to the others in her absence, Jennifer returned home after only 1 day of freedom.
Wow.
In this instance, her parents' neglect was in her favor because they didn't find out about her attempt, a fact which probably saved her life.
She left and they ain't even know.
In 2014, the Turpins moved to Paris, California. The house they left behind in Texas was filled with feces, rotting garbage, and dead animals, as well as beds with chains attached. You would think that this alone would warrant some kind of complaint or call law enforcement, but somehow they managed to get away with it. In California, most neighbors didn't even realize there were children. Others said they only seemed to come out after dark, would only speak when spoken to, and appeared malnourished and nervous. Again, it's strange that this didn't warrant any type of call to child services. It's a strange truth that some people will call the cops on their neighbors for painting the house the wrong shade of beige,
there it is.
but will act like the quiet game champions at the sight of actual abuse.
There it is.
Even if the appearance of the children didn't arouse suspicion, the smell should have been an indication that something was wrong. The combination of human feces, dead animals, and rotting garbage is hard to hide. and it can carry a considerable distance.
They said dead
The children
animals,
were
bruh.
The combination of human feces, dead animals, and rotting garbage.
What? So they had pets and they just letting them starve to death, or what? Like, where does the dead animals come from? Or they just felt the need to throw that in there.
Is hard to hide,
I'm
and
lost.
it can carry a considerable distance. The children were only allowed to shower once a year and were not able to use the toilet at all.
They said once
This
a
alone
year,
is
bro.
appalling and put the children at high risk for health issues. The garbage acted as a magnet for mice and rats, and it's assumed that cats were added for hunting rather than any emotional benefit they might have provided the kids, since they were left to die and rot in the house. Aside from the health concerns, this had to be psychologically damaging as well. Being chained to a bed, starving most of the time, and watching a cat die and its body slowly decompose. In that hopeless situation, at least one child probably wondered if that was to be their fate as well. At this point,
This story kind of getting crazy, bro. Like, I don't know. Watching a cat's body decompose. They was taking it to that extreme, really? For what, though? What is the motive here?
some people are probably
What is the
wondering why
reason?
other family members didn't raise the alarm that something was wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
After all, we're talking about nearly 30 years worth of abuse before David and Louise were finally caught. Distance was a factor. Living several states away made it easy to avoid visits, and several relatives had said they were just never allowed to see the kids. The only thing they ever saw were carefully staged photos on Facebook, which just goes to show you that you shouldn't trust anything you see on social media.
Facts.
As well as being kept in inhumane conditions, the children were kept ignorant as well. There was no form of education outside of Jennifer's first few years of school and whatever they could quickly glean from stolen moments of TV. Most of the children couldn't even write their own names and didn't even have a firm grasp about simple things like medicine or police. Louise made sure to drill them on things like what grade they were in or would be in based on their age, presumably in case they were ever out where they might be asked. Because in a bizarre twist, they did go out to Disneyland. David and Louise were obsessed with Disney and even had matching vanity plates for their cars. It's hard to
Weirdos.
imagine the logic behind starving, beating, and isolating your kids, then taking them on random trips to a theme park. Is it to taunt them? To drive home how every aspect of their lives, right down to pain and pleasure, is controlled? It's hard to wrap your head around spending a day in the magical kingdom, only to go back to a home that makes prison camps look like a stay in a luxury hotel. Although David had a good job, Louise blew through the money rapidly, racking up an impressive amount of credit card debt. She bought tons of clothes and toys for the children, which they weren't allowed to open or touch. It would be interesting to see a psychological study on Louise to get her motivation.
That's what I'm
Was she
saying.
experiencing some type of mental conflict? With one side trying to provide
She
her
lost.
children with a childhood she didn't have, while the other side resented them for not going through the sexual abuse that she did and felt the need to punish them for it. Did she have some type of mental disorder? Or was she, as so many have said, just a lousy human being? As beaten down
They said
and
a
fearful
lousy.
as the Turpin children were, their inner fire couldn't be smothered enough to
sums it up.
prevent small forms of rebellion. The older children were given a phone so their parents could send orders, and somehow they also managed to come by an old smartphone and other devices. In secret, they would watch television shows and YouTube. Jordan, in particular, discovered Justin Bieber, and his videos helped to give her strength, as well as the desire to break free to
Justin
discover the
Bieber.
real world. Her discovery came with a price, because one of her siblings, probably in a bid to turn Louise's abuse away from themselves, told their mother about the videos Jordan had been watching. In a fury, Louise nearly choked her daughter to death. This traumatic event didn't stop Jordan. If anything, it probably pushed her forward, and she began to post videos of herself singing on social media. When one curious viewer asked why they were always inside and awake at night, Jordan revealed some of the details about her situation. The viewer told her that it wasn't right and that she needed to call the police, which confirmed Jordan's belief that there was something wrong with the way her parents treated them.
Ha.
Slowly, Jordan began to make plans to escape. Perhaps sensing that their control might be slipping, David and Louise took to chaining their kids to their beds for longer periods of time. Jordan recalls being in a room with two of her younger sisters who had been chained for 4 months. In the 2 years she had been planning with her sister Jennifer, she understood that she would need proof of the abuse if she hoped to get everyone out. With their permission, she took photographs of her younger sisters with one of her brother's deactivated cell phones. On January 14, 2018, Jennifer and Jordan were horrified when Louise announced that they would be moving to Oklahoma the next day. With the way things kept escalating, both of them feared that all of them might not survive the trip. Knowing that it was now or never, Jordan waited until it was dark and made her escape through a window. She raced down several streets, shaking with fear. From a few illicit episodes of Cops, Jordan knew that she needed to use the cell phone to call 911, but she was having a difficult time doing so. She had never spoken to someone on the phone before, and she wasn't sure of what to say or if anyone would believe her.
Wow. Crazy.
Finally, she made the call, barely able to choke out the words as she described the situation at home to the 911 operator.
Our parents are abusing. They abuse us. But the reason I called and the reason I managed to get out here, this is one of the most scariest things I've ever done. I'm terrified. But I called because my two little sisters, they're chained up right now.
Do you have pictures of that?
Yes, I can show you. But I'm sorry if I talk too much. Okay. I've never talked to anybody out there, so I've never been alone with a person, so it's very hard for me to talk.
It was almost too good to be true when 2 hours later, her parents were arrested. Police on the scene were horrified by the conditions. The place was filthy, covered in human excrement and garbage. They rescued what they believed to be 13 children, and their horror only intensified when they realized that 7 of them were actually adults. By this point, Jennifer, the oldest, was 29, and Jennifer only weighed 82 pounds. And one 11-year-old girl had the arm circumference of a 4.5-month-old baby. They were taken to the hospital for treatment to assess how much damage had been done and what would be needed to reverse.
You 29 years old.
It, or if it was irreversible. David and Louise were charged with torture, false imprisonment, abuse of a dependent adult, and child abuse. Both denied the charges, but pled guilty the following year. They were convicted and given life sentences, but will be eligible for parole after 25 years. One child has forgiven them, and several have had the right to choose to visit their parents in prison. At least 10 of them will have 10 years restraining orders against David and Louise. In a perfect world, we would be able to see that Jordan's escape marked the end of a nightmare for the 13 Turpins. But sadly, for most of them, their lives have only marginally improved. All of the children under the age of 18 were placed in foster homes, where many of them endured repeated abuse by people they believed were going to help them. Although there have been generous donations raised for all of them for housing and education, they are unable to access the funds, and several of the older Turpins are living on the streets, most likely wondering why anyone bothered to save them at all. Jordan and Jennifer, at least, are the two bright lights. Jordan received her high school diploma in 1 year, especially enjoying the subjects of government, English, and math. Jennifer is working in a restaurant and writes Christian pop music that she hopes to one day share with the world. Her dream is to become a published author. This case never really got the attention it deserved, and once the drama of the arrests being made and the children being rescued had faded, they were quickly forgotten. In a lot of ways, society has failed the Turpins. We shudder in horror at their abuse, and we soothe ourselves with the thought all will be well now that the perpetrators have been brought to justice. As a society as a whole, and as individuals, we need to do better. We need to always find ways to help such victims integrate into the world, and we need to hold those in positions of power accountable when they fail to protect and empower those left in their care. As difficult as things are, the Turpin siblings make an effort to get together. They have a powerful bond, and it is from that that they draw their strength.
It's a lot of
because
kids,
in the
though.
end, they know they have each other.
That's a wild story, bro. So if one of the daughters hadn't escaped, they would have been locked up probably for a lifetime. Parents of why they do these kind of things, I don't get it. Somebody fill me in. Fill in the blank, please. So that was Escaping from the House of Horrors, the case of the Turpin family from Stranger Stories. My first time doing a reaction to this content, content creator. Interesting. Definitely would take time to do some additional reactions. So if you have specific recommendations for anything at all you want me to tap into, man, put it in the comment section down below. Peace, love, prosperity, everybody rocking with the channel. We'll catch you guys in the next video. We out.